Hill in the gun with Hill to his right. Play action to the right. Steps up, throws over the middle. He's got Thornton. Caught it! Junior Thornton. Split. 6. Touchdown. Midway.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on Sikkim 365 Radio. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB, your bank for life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
Hill, right side, finds a seam. Hill, 20. Hill, 10. Hill, touchdown. Midway, no flags. Midway takes the lead by more than one score. And how about the Big Uglies inside?
Now, here's David Smoke.
Welcome back. It is week number 6 of the Texas high school football season. I'm David Smoke. Jacob Wilson running the mothership behind the scenes on 365 Sports and also powered by Smoaky.com. Last week, some of the key games and what they meant, and then we'll have an historical perspective. We do that every week in the first segment, and this week will be about coaches who have won a lot of state championships. We've given you the all-time leaders, but in different decades. That's coming up in just a moment. Also, Longview's John King and Mart head coach Kevin Hoffman will be a part of the show, and the best games for this week. We'll look at that also today on 365 Sports. Longview beating Lancaster 21-13, two teams. Both of them have tremendous speed. Longview wins the game 21-13. We'll talk a little bit more about that with John King in a moment. Also, Parish Episcopal beat China Spring. China Spring lost the game. Parish Episcopal, remember, that's the team that beat Aledo. Their only loss was to South Oak Cliff. So they're really good. And they beat China Spring, and it was very competitive, 24-16. That snapped the Cougars' China Spring's 20-game winning streak. Garden City and Westbrook, I knew in 6-man or Class 1A, be a great game. It was Garden City getting the best of Westbrook, 46-42. Westlake and Lake Travis is a great series, rivalry, and Westlake's gotten the best of them of late. Lake Travis, of course, is still really good with Hank Carter, their head coach. Lake Travis led that game for a while early, but eventually Westlake wins the game 35-20. That's the final there. Someone had sent me a note. Hey, Smokey, watch out for that game with Cuero and Beeville. I said, you mean like Cuero and Belleville? He goes, no, Beeville. Cuero won the game 82-28. It was a blowout. The Gobblers roll in that one. District 11, 6A with that DeSoto, Duncanville. Cedar Hill's down a little bit. They were last year. Obviously, Waxahachie, Mansfield, and others. A nice opening win for DeSoto to beat Waxahachie. Waxahachie's really pretty good, but 42-24, DeSoto wins that one. Also, this is one of those games. Shelbyville's pretty good. The teams in East Texas, those 2A teams like Joaquin, Timpson, with Terry Bussey among some others. Joaquin beating Shelbyville 67-20, and the Rams are rolling right now. Smithson Valley beat New Braunfels Canyon. That's the 18th straight win for Smithson Valley. My last year of high school football was in 1976 because I'm old. We played Smithson Valley. I think they were a brand new school back then and beat them 34-0. But they have, of course, been really good. The Rangers and New Braunfels Canyon is a team we played my senior year when I was at Universal City Randolph. I think we won that game 18-6. That's a game 35-0 Smithson Valley, 18 consecutive wins for them in that series. And then the Rockwall Heath and Rockwall and Heath. Rockwall, I thought they would win the game. Heath, obviously, I saw them a couple of weeks ago against Midway. 56-21, Rockwall with a nice win there. Now, every week, an historical perspective of Texas high school football. Here are coaches. Most decades to win a state championship as a head coach. So in other words, if you won 5 in one decade but did not win any others, that's great. But most decades with a state championship, and these are the 3 coaches that have won a state championship in 4 separate decades. Gordon Wood, of course, everyone knows the legendary coach that everyone usually attaches to Brownwood, but he won a couple of state titles at Stanford in the 50s, 4 in the 60s with Brownwood, won a couple in the 70s with Brownwood, and also won a state title in 1981 with Brownwood. By the way, Brownwood-Stephenville is a great game this week. Brownwood's playing well. Stephenville's averaging over 50 points a game. That's another game to look at, but we'll have that one a little bit later on. G.A. Moore once the all-time leader for wins. Now, of course, Phil Danaher passed him by, who's now retired from Cal Allen. G.A. Moore won a state title with Salina in 1970s. Won 2 with Pilot Point in 80 and 81. Pilot Point, in fact, in 81 beat Groveton. I believe it was Groveton for the state title. I'd been covering Groveton. Eventually, Groveton did win. I think it was 3 or 4 years later, a state title, and then they had the great run with Rodney Thomas. He won G.A. Moore at a different school again. Salina, the Pilot Point, back to Salina, won 3 with Salina in the 1990s, and then came back with a couple of more in a 4th decade with Salina in 2000 and 2001. And then Tim Buchanan, the head coach at Aledo, he won a state title in 98. That's 1 decade. Won a state title with Aledo in 2009. And then, of course, Aledo won 7, I think it was, in the 2010 to 2019. Steve Wood won 3 of them, but Tim Buchanan won 4 of them himself before he retired. Then he came back and won in 2020, his 4th separate decade with a state title. So a little historical perspective. Coming up next, Longview's John King, Mart's Kevin Hoffman. A question for me on the first record-breaking game I ever attended or covered, and then later on the best games of the week on 365 Sports and the Texas High School Football Statewide Podcast.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB Your Bank for Life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
We are now joined by Longview football coach John King on 365 Sports and the Texas High School Football Podcast Show. What's the difference? You're off this week after a very nice win against Lancaster. What is the difference for a coaching staff during the off week? Is it more self-examination or what?
Well, it's not an off week. It's open. We're not preparing for an opponent, but there's work to be done on ourselves and, the next one that's coming up. But, we use it to, one, give the kids a little bit of a break. We don't practice every day after school, but there are much needed practice you've got to do to stay, fine tuned and work on the things that you're not doing well. And it's kind of how we've always approached it.
You came in from Louisiana with Pat Collins, and so many other coaches have come to Texas from that great state and that great state of football as well. When you arrived in Texas, what was that like? Knowing Dickie Meeks had success, obviously Mike Valerie was involved from Louisiana, among some others. John Barry, what was that like initially? Was that something that you guys accepted as a nice challenge, or did you feel like you could maybe have an influence in the state?
Well, I was trying to keep my job when I first got here. It didn't go too well early on. So 3-7 in Longview, Texas is not a good start, but it just felt like we could come over and figure out the lay of the land, so to speak, and what would work here in Longview. We could coach. I think if you can coach middle school, you can coach high school, you can coach college, you can coach pro. Coaching's coaching. Being able to relate to kids and communicate to kids. And, we're not doing anything different here than we did in Louisiana. We just play in a bigger state that, we've got a heck of a lot more football teams to play against. There's 1,300 here, where there's only 300 in Louisiana. But, coaching's coaching, and, got to be surrounded by good people and good players.
Did the state of Texas accept you guys with open arms?
I wouldn't say that it was a bad transition, no, because, everybody we work with over here or coached against and worked with, they were all good guys. I mean, from John Outlaw, Mike Owens, Alan Wilson, Bill Harper, Ed Marshall, just to name a few. I mean, they were all good people, and they were in for the right reasons. We got ribbed a little bit about being out-of-staters, but I think the more they got to know us and we got to know them, regardless of where we're from, we're all to the same thing. That was coach kids and treat people right.
What was that first year like, though? Because as I have said on record, Longview has been the most consistent program since I started covering high school football in 1981 and in the areas where I've covered it. Yeah, there's been an up and down year. There's a reason why there's a coaching change. But what was that first year like?
It was frustrating. Just trying to, make a few changes here or there and put a winning product on the field. But, at the same time, you just had so many roadblocks to get through. As I mentioned, we 3-7, but we lost a bunch of kids at grades. We had 27 kids dressed out our last home game versus Lufkin here. And all those things that went against us, I mean, we're still 1 or 2 possessions away from beating teams like Lufkin, who was, I don't know how far they went in playoffs that year, probably 4 rounds. And John Tyler played for the state championship that year against Katy. We got beat, I think, 10 or 14 there. So, I mean, you're thinking to yourself, if these guys are state championship caliber, and we're just that far away, when we can get things to go in our favor, and we can get a foundation built, and we'll have a chance to do some of the same things. And it's kind of how we approached it.
And, of course, I watched all of it along the way with that great district that was together with all these schools now that have kind of been spread out. I know Lufkin's back in your district, and other schools have moved down. And Legacy, Lee, is the only school now left in 6A. When did you know? Was there a moment, maybe even that first year in a loss, or was there a win the next year when you guys felt like, click, the light had come on and things were turning?
Oh, I would have to say the Midland Lee win in 2001. We beat them here at Lobo Stadium. After, going out there in 2000, our first year here in Longview, as our first opponent was traveling to Midland to play the 2-time defending state champions, and they thumped us pretty good, but the next year we turned around and returned the favor. So I think that shows the growth we made. And, that we had a chance to be, being talked about in that elite company.
Obviously, Pat set the table. Then here you come and you put more of a buffet on the table. When he decided to leave, what did he tell you? And was that a given that you would be his replacement?
Wasn't a given. He wanted that to happen, but it wasn't a given. He did everything he could for me to get the job. I don't think that's a secret because there's been so much work poured into this. But coach was always good with people, and he told me a few things, and dealing with whether it's superintendents or booster clubs or just dealing with your team in general. And Coach John Berry and I laugh about it all the time. The old man was right. He was right more than he was wrong. We used to poke fun at some of the things he'd tell us. The old man was right. And, dealing with people and just treating them all like they're important, because they are. I mean, whether it's the band, the VUETs, the cheerleaders, ROTC, parents, community members, administrators, they're all important to your program. They all have an influence on it, and you want to make sure everything's positive. So, but he definitely had a lot of words of wisdom, and very fortunate I had a chance to work for somebody like that.
Would you like to have been able to record any kind of a get-together with Pat Collins, the late John Outlaw, Mike Owens, Alan Wilson, and maybe even you or Cecil Roach, the late Cecil Roach? Can you imagine? Can you imagine that reality show?
It'd be a bunch of bleeps in there, I can promise you that. But it would be the truth. Yeah. I can tell you that. And that's the thing about all those guys. They straight shooters, good football coaches, good men, But I just remember the good old days, when I was an assistant going to the regional meeting in February, and there'd be John Outlaw and Mike Owens and Pat up there, and Alan Wilson. They'd all be up there cutting up, talking about this, talking about that. Me and Todd Quick, Randy Huffstickler.
Oh, yeah.
whoever else it may be, just sitting there as assistants, just thinking, these crazy jokers, they didn't care. I mean, I guess they were in that point of their career that, they had enough skins on the wall. It didn't matter, but they sure treated people good, regardless of who you were and where you were from. So, but they gave each other a hard time.
Love every one of those guys and miss the ones that are no longer with us. Have you now put enough skins on your wall?
No, not hardly. We're just trying to go 1-0 every week, Smoke.
I know.
I've never looked at it that way. And I tell people this all the time, and it's truly how I feel. I feel like, coach for my job every year, and nobody's ever given me any pressure or threat like that. But that's just kind of how I feel. I mean, thinking about the guys like Pat Collins that run his neck out there for me to get this job. And my job is going to do the best I can to keep it. Because there's not many of these Longview Lobo head coaching jobs out there. Being a one high school district, playing in a community like this with great players, great support. We're fortunate, and it's there's not a better job in the state, in my opinion. Like I tell these coaches, let's do what we can to keep it and keep things rolling, because we're pretty fortunate, and our kids are fortunate to play in a place like this.
John King, head coach at Longview, with us on the 365 High School Football Statewide Podcast. I don't think a lot of people realize, I know John Tyler at the time, now Tyler High, was down a little bit, but can you try to explain those 2 years when there were 4 teams in the district, Lufkin, Longview, at the time Lee and John Tyler, and you had to play each other twice in district play?
That was a beatdown. I mean, and I think we realized after the first year that was a serious mistake we'd made, because they agreed, I guess Outlaw and Owens and at the time it kept Ratcliffe, it was Tyler, had agreed for DeSoto and Rockwall to petition now and go to a different district. So lo and behold, that was due to travel, and
right.
Here we are stuck playing each other in the round robin, and absolutely just beat the crap out of one another. The first year, I think we met Lufkin in the 4th round. They knocked us off in the 4th round for the 3rd time in 1 year. They beat us at Tyler, and I think Tyler Lee got beat in the semifinals that year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep,
or maybe it was next year. Then 2003, I mean, it was just a bloodletting again, and I think it took its toll on us. And we get us and Lufkin, I guess, get knocked out in the 1st round, and I guess Lee went to the semifinals and lost with us, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I remember listening to that game on the radio, and old Flynn had that foot injury.
Yeah.
But it was just, it's too taxing on week after week. It's like playing in the SEC, just about. I mean, it's big boy football, and at the time, that district was loaded with college players and NFL players that went on, to the next level. And it's rough to be able to do that.
It was a battering ram, a sledgehammer. Lee had gone to the semis in 2002, and that's the year that Matt hurt his foot. And then 3, they lost to the Woodlands in 4 overtimes in the quarterfinals at Texas Stadium. And then finally, they broke through. And I know you said this before to me, when Pat Collins told you after you won the state championship, the hardest year would not be finally getting it or winning it, would be the following that up. Has that turned out to be true?
Old man was right again. It was, because you wanted to repeat. You want to get back on top of the mountain. And I remember him telling me right after the game. He said, "Hey, you come here and you listen to me. Number one," he said, "don't screw this up. Let them enjoy it, because you know how I am." I'm not interested in all this hoopla and fanfare, but he said, "Don't screw it up. Been 81 years. Let them enjoy it. You do everything they want to do." So I listened, and he said, "Number 2, big boy," as he referenced me several times, "next year is going to be tougher than any year you've ever coached." Because he had gone through that after winning the national championship at ULM and trying to maintain that success. And you got a different football team. The expectations aren't different. They expect you to do it again. And it was frustrating. We had a good team. We didn't have a championship caliber team the next year, but you're trying to make one, and it didn't quite turn out good for us. So yeah, it was tough.
You are 5-0. Nice win against Lancaster. We know how good they are. You have pulverized everybody else, including a couple of rivals in Legacy and also Lufkin. How good is this team, and what else do you need to see, perhaps? I know you got Tatum, the running back, and you're starting to pound the ball, and yet you can open it up, and you have over the last few years. But your thoughts about this year's team?
Well, we got an experienced football team, 15 starters and back and 40 lettermen, so we're playing like it. I don't know if we've played our best football yet. I mean, we've played complimentary football a lot. The other night, our defense did an outstanding job of slowing down Lancaster's offense and getting us the ball back in very opportunistic times. And, offensively, we did enough to come out there with a win. But, yes, we can run the ball. We've got to be more explosive. We've got to be more diversified. And defensively, we just need to continue doing the things we're doing. There's still some alignment issues you want to get corrected. There's some communication that's got to be corrected for you to be able to, get in those kind of ball games and come out with a win. But our locker room's good, Smoky. The kids really like each other. There's not many issues, not many egos. They work hard in practice. They do what they're asked to do. Friday for us, we played Lancaster, was an early release day. 0 issues with our team, which is not common. I can tell you most high school coaches will tell you that. Mm-hmm. You got a change in your schedule, you're normally going to have issues. We didn't have any. So I think it's a focused group, and you just got to continue playing together and staying healthy.
John, you have 2 collegiate athletes, obviously Haynes at A&M, and your daughter's an amazing, high-level, elite gymnast. What's that like to see both of them have? I know it's been a tough start for Haynes, the injury last year and then the start of this year. What's that like to watch them perform? Is that harder than sometimes coaching a game?
Watching my daughter perform, it's not been that hard. I just get nervous for the 60 seconds she's on the beam or, on the apparatus. But I'm not as much of an emotional wreck in between events, with her. But those 60 seconds are tough. And then, the deal is watching your son play, and you keep a knot in your stomach, because being a football coach and understanding the game of football and the importance of every snap and just evaluating everything, you just. The only time I got any relief, Smoky, was when they were on defense. I can tell you that it's just gut wrenching, and then that's kind of what everybody's told me. When it's your own son out there playing or your daughter performing, it's going to be worse than when you coach them, and that has been true.
Last question then: has it changed any way that you're in that position about when someone is now who you coach, where you've been a great father figure for a lot of these players? Does that change any way the way you coach?
In terms of watching my kids?
Yeah, in terms of being the parent involved, and in case, because we know there's parents that are not happy, their son's not playing enough or whatever, or just barking. That's going to be part of it. You can't let that get, but has that changed a little bit about how you view things?
Yeah, let me tell you what changed my view is when I had kids that got to the age where, they were competing at the middle school level, and you start understanding, the communication gap between the coach and the parents or the kids, and the importance of, team and the importance of being at practice and, which I understood all those things, but I tell these coaches all the time, don't tell me how that parent feels unless you've had a kid go through it, because you really don't know. It's different when it's your kid. And that ain't no different in middle school or what we're going through right now with Haynes. I mean, I've never been through anything like this in my life. Neither has he. But you just got to push on. You got to press on. It's a circumstance you're dealt. Control what you can control. And just push on, get ready for the next opportunity. That's all I know to tell him. And that's what I tell parents. They come in with their kids, got questions about their kids and what's going on. And, there ain't going to be any promises made here. But there is better understanding, what how you need to deal with situations and maybe what you can tell kids to help motivate them.
John, appreciate your time, man. We really do. Love you. And miss talking to you more often. Thanks for your time.
You bet, Smoky.
That's John King, head football coach at Longview. on the statewide high school football podcast powered by 365 Sports and Smoaky.com.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB, your bank for life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
Welcome back to the Texas High School Football Statewide Podcast. I'm David Smoke, Smoaky.com, and also, of course, with 365 Sports. So here's one of the questions for this week. Here is a question for this week. I thought it was pretty unique. Smoky, when was the last or the first time you can remember, what was your first memory covering a game when a state record was broken? It's a great question. In 1983, I think it was, I was covering Nacogdoches. I was still in Lufkin working for KTRE TV, Channel 9 in Lufkin. And I started there in November of 81. I told the story about the first game I ever covered. I saw a guy named TJ Turner at Lufkin, Parade All-American Player of the Year, and they asked me to take some video of him, and I set it up, and they put it out there, and it was pretty cool. And he, of course, has passed away since that time. He played at Lufkin, great defensive lineman. Then he won a state shot put title at Lufkin. Then he went on to play with the University of Houston and played in the NFL with the Miami Dolphins. He was a fun-loving, big teddy bear of a guy. But the first ever state record that I covered in Marshall, Texas, 1983, Nacogdoches had a receiver named Ken Smith. And I'm shooting highlights of the game, and I'm highlights of the game for both the station I worked for, which was KTRE TV in Lufkin, Nacogdoches, but also for a station that was owned by the same group, and it was Channel 7 in Tyler. A guy named Jerry Gumbert is a great friend of mine. Asked me, he goes, hey, shoot the video, and can you then, somehow I would get it. Back then, there was no internet. There was no putting it in and just said, there was none of that. So we had somebody would come get the highlights at halftime, then they'd race back to Longview where there was a bureau, and they would send the video from Longview to Tyler, which was where the main station was. I know that's complicated. But I started covering the Marshall and Nacogdoches game. Nacogdoches the year before had a really good team. They had won first time they'd gone to the playoffs in forever. They had Mark Moore, who ended up playing at Oklahoma State, and then also Jerry Deckard, who ended up playing at Oklahoma State. They had a running back named Hubert Douglas, who was fantastic. Caldwell, the quarterback. Steve McCarty was the head coach at the time. And they just kind of came out of nowhere. And they ended up beating Temple, in fact, in Texas Stadium in a playoff game that was a huge win for the program. But the next year they were down a little bit. But Ken Smith, long touchdown. Long touchdown. He was a receiver. Quick, fast receiver. Another long touchdown. And I didn't think much about it. And then all of a sudden realized he put up some crazy numbers. So here's the stat. This is how many yards Ken Smith had in that game. 310 yards receiving for Nacogdoches in that game against Marshall. That was a state record. That was a state record. Then 2 years later, his record was broken by Michael Aceves of Cedar Hill. In 1985 against Wiley, he then went for 345 yards in a game. So Ken Smith, I watched him break the all-time single game record for receiving yards in 1983, and didn't even realize it. And then all of a sudden we started putting together the stats, and it was crazy. And so that was the first time that I ever covered a game And eventually that game produced an all-time record, which has been broken many, many, many times since that time. Great for Ken Smith memory. I remember him, man. He had a night. Mart, John King is talking about expectations of being a head coach at Longview in that program. There's certain programs, the expectations are crazy good because they have fantastic athletes, players, commitment, and they just know how to win. And Longview's one of them. And Mart, of course, one of the all-time leading winningest programs, state championships. They're in that discussion. And Kevin Hoffman's their head coach. He retired earlier this year, changed his mind pretty quickly. Mart's glad he did, and so is he. We're joined by Kevin Hoffman here on the 365 Statewide High School Football Podcast Show, powered by Smoaky.com. Kevin Hoffman, the head coach at Mart. So we know the story. We've gone over the story that you felt like it was time to probably do something different or turn the keys over to Mart football to somebody else, and then you changed your mind. When did you know, when you changed your mind, that you wanted to keep coaching, that you made the right decision?
Oh, immediately, after I made the decision to retire, and just coming up here and continuing to work, and I was going to finish out my contract, just a few days afterwards, being around the coaches and the kids working out, and then saw, how hard they were working and what they wanted to accomplish and get back to where they felt like they, deserved to be. And I just felt like that I wanted to be a part of that. And I wasn't finished yet.
When that first practice began in August, that first day when you got, everyone, it's almost like you see the grass growing in the spring from the winter or whatever. What was that first practice like? Was that any different than all the other years you've been an assistant coach, player, and or head coach?
Oh, it's the first day of practice is always the same. You're excited. You got butterflies. You can't sleep the night before, and it hasn't changed. When I played and all the years that I was an assistant coach, and being a head coach, those feelings are always there. And then I guess if they're not there, that's when it's time to move on.
You're beating people up. That's kind of what you guys are used to doing. That doesn't mean someone hasn't pushed you or what. What about this team? What do you feel about this? I mean, the expectations. We just had John King from Longview. The expectations are insane. And they should be because, and he said, they've got the facilities. They've got a one-horse town. They've got the athletes and the commitment. And I know Mart's a much, much smaller school, Class 2A Division II, but every game is a game you're supposed to win 50-0. What about this team?
Well, this team is led by the guys in the trenches and our offense and defensive line. Those 8 or 9, 10 guys that make up those positions. When we got back to school, last January, after losing in the semifinals and then losing in the state finals the year before, those guys took it upon themselves that they were going to be up there at 6 o'clock in the morning. They were going to get the other guys, that were doing other sports to come up and work out at 6 o'clock in the morning. And, those guys did that on their own. We had a couple of coaches that were up there with them. And so they took it upon themselves that they felt like that may have been the reason that we got beat, for whatever, they thought. And they had decided that they weren't going to let that happen. And so since January, all through the spring, they lifted, 4 or 5 days a week. And then all summer, we did our summer strength and conditioning, and those 9 or 10 guys led the younger guys in the group. And, that's kind of how this team goes. And they're the main part of this team. And we've got some young athletes and some young kids that are doing really good right now.
Is there anything better than when your team, whether seniors or whoever, upperclassmen take over leadership? Is there anything more, not relaxing, but more satisfying as a coach?
Well, as a coach, you always want, to have 3 or 4, or in this case, 9 or 10 guys that take it upon themselves to lead the group and do the things that need to be done. I tell these kids all the time that if the coaches have to bring all the energy and they have to do all the motivation, and if the coaches are doing that, if you got athletes and you're pretty good, you're going to be a good team. But when the kids take over and they say, "Coach, no, I got this. I'll take care of it." We had a kid miss a morning workout, and we told him that after practice, if you miss the morning workout, you're going to work out after school, and it's going to be twice as hard and twice as long. And that's part of the discipline that we want these kids, to follow. But we had a kid that missed morning workout, so I took him to the weight room. After practice, after it was 100 degrees and we had a 2-hour practice, he had to get his weight workout in, and 2 of the kids, that are these leaders of this group, came up to me and said, "Coach, can we lead the workout? Can we go do the workout with him and make him do the stuff?" And so I just left the weight room and left it to them, and they took care of it. So that's awesome when these kids do that, and they'll be better for it in the long run.
I said you've beaten everybody up. I do know you had the great game, the 21-20 game with Centerville, and what they do. That's a physical football team, and obviously you guys can do that as well. How much did that game, winning the game, of course, is critical, but how much did that game make you better?
Oh, it was tremendous what it's done for us mentally going through that, And when we scheduled this game with Centerville, Coach Hardy, we knew what we were getting into. We played them before a few years ago, and then we saw what they did last year and the past couple of years, and I wanted to win or lose. Ultimately, that game it doesn't mean a whole lot as far as playoffs or anything like that. And that's what I told the kids. I want to learn about us. I want to see when somebody hits you in the mouth how you're going to respond to it. And so I got exactly what I wanted to get out of that game, and that's to play a much bigger, physical, awesome opponent in Centerville and have a great game. And whether you win by 1 or you win by 100, everybody wants to win, but we got so much more out of that game. And our kids understood, and after the game, and then watching the film and seeing the things that we did good and the things that we didn't do well, it's going to make us better. And hopefully somewhere down the road that we're going to run into this situation, and our kids are going to be able to draw back from that game with Centerville and use it to their advantage.
Yeah, they will hammer that fullback, won't they? They will pound the rock, and you guys end up winning the game. Last thing, Kevin, you have mentioned this before. You've talked to me about it. We've discussed this. Have you cleared 2020 yet, the state championship game? Is that now? And when did you clear it, if you did?
No, that's still stuck in the back of my mind. And, what's crazy is that, I've told you before, the losses, they hurt way more than the good feeling you get from winning. The losses are, twice as bad. And, I still talk to people still come up to me and the one thing that seems to always mention, hey, and I see y'all did 1-3 in a row and all that, but what happened against Windthorpe? And so people still remind me and the coaches and our kids about the loss, and we understand that the territory and the expectations here are to play deep every year, win a state championship, at least have a chance to win. And but no, I still think about that, and it probably won't ever leave my mind until I'm gone off of this earth.
Kevin, I always have loved your emotions, man, and your truth serum. Thank you for your time. Good luck going forward. Thanks for giving us time on the podcast, and always great to talk to you.
Appreciate it, Smoky. And again, I love what you guys do for Central Texas and Texas high school football in general, and keep doing the good work and spreading the word and getting people to talk about high school football. Appreciate it.
It's incredible. It's been fun. Thank you. Kevin Hoffman, head football coach at Mart. This is the Statewide High School Football Podcast.
Are y'all ready? What? Y'all ready to play some football? If you wanna look again and let me know. I'm about to break this thing up. If you wanna look again and let me know. I'm about to break this thing up. If you want some, come get some.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB, your bank for life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
As we close out every week, as we do with the Texas High School Football Statewide Podcast, powered by 365 Sports and Smoaky.com, you could go to my website, Smoaky.com, and the very top, there's a link that says Pick 'em. And you can pick 30 games. I think last week we had 29. It's sponsored by Bubba's 33. The winner each week, if you register your name and email and all that, then pick all 30 games. The winner receives a $25 gift certificate from Bubba's 33 at any location in the state of Texas. And Waco, of course, has one that's new. And other places have one. I think Longview has one. They're probably going to have, I think, Bryan College Station soon, and then eventually in Tyler as well. But thanks to the great people at Bubba's 33, $25 gift card. You can get to the link, pick 30 games. They're all over the place. They're not just like 30 games in East Texas or 30 games in the Valley or 30 games in Central Texas or Dallas, Fort Worth, or West Texas. These are the best games based on how teams are ranked by Jerry Forrest and pigskinprep.com. The list starts this week with Benjamin and Lorraine, and then we go down the list, and some of the games that you see, the number on the right-hand side that's in red, that is the lowest number. That means the better game. The lowest number in red means it's the most elite game among all the games out of all the teams that play high school football in the state of Texas. That second game right there, Stephenville and Brownwood, I've alluded to that earlier. Stephenville averaging 52 points a game. They're giving up a lot as well. Brownwood just put up 51 on Conley last week. That should be one heck of a game. And so that's one. Also, on that same list of going down the list, the Refugio game with Three Rivers will be interesting. Three Rivers 5-0. Refugio had that early loss this year, but here they come. They're just roaring right back. They'll be just fine. Also, the next level of 10 games, we have in six-man football. Abbott, Terry Crawford does a great job. They're running 5-0 against Borden County at 4-1. Also in that list, I like that Hershey and Decatur game. It's just a great rivalry. Decatur's 2-3. Hershey's a heavy favorite, 21-point favorite according to Jerry, but still a game that's of interest there. Lorena and Academy. Lorena beaten by Yo last week, 48-44. That's a great win. Great win for Rick Rhodes, who was there, won state championships back. Lorena, the defending state champion, in the same district, but so is Academy with Chris Lancaster. They're good. That should be a heck of a game. Lorena is less than a touchdown favorite in that game. Also, Hampshire Finette and Jasper. Boy, you have Hampshire Finette and Jasper. You have in that area, of course, Newton's a smaller school, but they'll play anybody. Silsby, among others. In fact, Mark Wagner, the head coach at Hampshire Finette, used to be the head coach when they won state titles when he was at Riker. And Jacob Wilson, who's producing our show, played with him. He was a high school coach for Jacob.
I still have eligibility, Coach, by the way. I just wanted to let
he has
you know.
no eligibility left, by the way. Also, an interesting game, that Port Neches Grove, Texas City game has a lot of history. Stanford and Olney. Stanford's a 1-point favorite. They're 5-0. Of course, they've been really, really good over the years. And then Center and Rusk could be explosive. I mean, McCowan at quarterback for Rusk. Center's running back, was it last week or the week before, put up 300 and some yards rushing. That could be like 55-50. That could be that kind of game. And anytime you say that, then it's going to be a low-scoring game. But that one is one to think about as well. So go to my website, Smoaky.com, look for Pick'em at the top, among all the top list from left to right. Click on that, enter your name and email, and then pick 30 games. And the winner, by the way, will get a $25 gift card from Bubba's 33. All right, thanks to all of our guests today. Longview's John King, Kevin Hoffman of Mart. Thanks to Jacob Wilson. Thanks to you and our amazing sponsors. They are here with us every week. I'm David Smoke from Smoaky.com and 365 Sports, and this is week number 6 of the Texas High School Football Podcast.
Battle in the gun with Hill to his right. Play action to the right. Steps up, throws over the middle. He's got Thornton. Caught it! Junior Thornton. Split. 6. Touchdown. Midway.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on Sikkim 365 Radio. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB, your bank for life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
Hill, right side, finds a seam. Hill, 20. Hill, 10. Hill, touchdown. Midway, no flags. Midway takes the lead by more than one score. And how about the Big Uglies inside?